Hello and welcome to Hot Money on Bloomberg Quint Live, India's first digital live streaming business news service. This is a show which gets you a complete wrap of all the stocks that are buzzing in trade. I'm Darshan Mehta. Let's welcome our guest on the show. Joining us today are Amit Shah of Indiabulls Ventures, Gaurav Issa of LKB Securities. He's a little delayed, but he'll be here. And Kunal Rambia of The Streets. Many thanks to all of my guests for joining me. Before we begin with the show, let's bring in Yash Upadhyay, who has a chart on Federal Bank. Good afternoon, Yash. What does the chart indicate?
Good afternoon, Darshan. So there's a sell signal which is coming in on Federal Bank, and we're using the RSI for this. As you can see, the stock is on its course for a third consecutive week of losses. Now, this is after the month of March, wherein we saw the stock fall for 5 consecutive weeks, and this is the first time that this has happened. When it had reached the mark of 110, that is when the RSI, as you could see in the lower panel, had crossed the mark of 70, which indicates that the stock is overbought. Now, the stock on the weekly time frame is the very first time since July 2017 has crossed the mark of 70, and since then, as we could see, it has been coming off almost about a 10 rupees correction, and as you could see, it crossed the mark of 70, which was the first time since June of 2017, in fact, and then it has been coming off, and for the last 3 to 4 trading sessions, in fact, we've seen that the stock has been falling close to 1 to 2%. Today again it's down close to 1.5%, but it is taking support somewhere around the 50-day moving average, which is at the mark of 101. Should it manage to take it out, and with the RSI as well indicating that the stock could fall further, we could look at lower levels as far as Federal Bank is concerned.
Okay, what's the efficacy ratio of this analysis every time this has happened, Yash?
So the stock could, Darshan, on an average fall close to about 90, 95. So that's about a 10 to 12% move on the downside that could be expected on Federal Bank over the next 1 month period.
Okay, thanks so much for that, Yash. Amit, I'll start with you. Federal Bank usually finds a lot of resistance once it reaches 3-digit. Do you see a similar case this time around? Do you see it correcting?
Yes, in the near term, just a tradable move towards 97 is looking likely, because it has recently broken down from a trend line, the uptrend line, the short-term uptrend line, and also it was holding for past 8-10 sessions around its 20 EMA, which is what it has broken down from. So yes, a short-term move towards 97 is looking likely, but not much beyond that.
Okay, so you won't take any aggressive shots at this level?
I won't, yes.
What's your sense, Kunal?
So no, if I'm trying to look at the positional charts that's on weekly time frame or say even monthly time frame, there is a small uptrend which has recently started once it surpassed 90-95 mark on the higher side. So I think it's coming down to retest that level. I'll think of buying the counter near to 95 to 97, keeping the stop loss of 90, and then I'm expecting the counter to reach 120 over the period of time.
Okay, so that's the view that's coming in. Don't take aggressive shots on Federal Bank, but buying at lower level is something that's been recommended at this point of time. But let's begin the first round of charts, and Amit this time has a chart on Bajajfinance. It's been a marked outperformer considering what we've seen on the NBFC space, but what makes you bullish? I can see it's consolidating, but what gives you that?
I think Darshan, you answered it very well. I mean, it's very clear, in spite of the rout that is happening in the NBFC space, if a stock within the same space is able to hold so strongly, it itself tells you the strength. Even a non-technician would probably able to see this, and it's visible so clearly. So this phase, see, it's been trading above its all near-term key averages. It's making new highs in such a scenario. This phase, such a sharp move tells you the aggressiveness of the buyers, and more importantly, the kind of sideways consolidation, even post such a sharp rise, itself tells you that stock is in very, very strong hands, and it shows all the signs of outperforming, even going further from here. So I mean, it's a very, very simple but simple chart setup, but I think very, very effective.
Okay, it's a buy on ADX. Can you explain what are you seeing in this ADX?
Yeah, so see, basically any stock which rises up so sharply and does not retrace much, the ADX trend would indicate strength. So we have seen the kind of 40 levels around here. See, ADX levels about 25, 27. It is when the stock starts trending. So it had been 40. It has corrected recently a bit because of that consolidation, but I am expecting this trend to gather back once the stock starts again moving up.
Okay, and can you explain this green and red line? What does
Yeah,
this
so basically
indicate?
this is the positive and the negative divergence. It's in the positive territory, basically, and this ADX indicator shows the strength of that direction, basically. So it's in a positive territory, and the ADX strength shows it's in a positive trend, basically.
Okay, so it's at 35.85 currently.
Yeah.
What strategy are you recommending? Buy at current levels? Buy
I
at low
would,
levels?
for this stock, definitely recommend buying even at these levels. The first target for this is 3760, but eventually I do believe that it's headed for that 4,000 mark. I'll keep a stop of 3488 on the downside.
3488. Thanks so
Yeah,
much for
thanks.
that, Amit. Kunal, what's your sense on Bajajfinance? I believe a while back you were quite bullish on the counter. Is the bullish trend still there?
So, if I look at the consolidation and breakout, certainly, yes, it's continuing on the same direction itself. But, so if someone wants to play on a short-term basis, yes, this counter seems to be perfect. But otherwise, if I'm looking at the indicators, the way I highlighted one of the monthly charts of the same counter, the indicators are turning little, negative. They are showing negative divergences. So keeping that in mind, I'm little cautious. But yes, unless it breaks 3400, 3450 on the lower side, the trend may continue.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in. Gaurav, welcome to the show. I believe traffic kept you at a little late. But we discussed two stocks. The first one we discussed was Federal Bank. So if you can give your view on Federal Bank. And also then right now, Amit has a buy recommendation on Bajajfinance. So what's your sense on both of them?
Good afternoon. Well, it kept me quite away from you. But yes, if you look at Federal Bank, it had formed a bearish AB equals CD pattern. So as long as it's trading below 110, I would not be too gung-ho about the name. If you look at the move that we have seen in Bank Nifty also from 30,250 to 30,650 around, it did not participate. Not that it is a major constituent of Bank Nifty, but overall I don't see too much of aggression visible in the name. Probably a dip towards 102, 103 is what one can buy. Keep a stop loss of 100 rupee on the upside, and 10 is what I would be playing for. But major move, I don't expect or I don't anticipate for time being. Major move, if it sustains.
Is there more potential downside in Federal Bank?
As long as it trades below 110, it can try to slip towards 100 levels, and if 100 is broken, because that was a breakout level on weekly charts, then yes, there's a chance that it may again slip towards 94, 95 levels. So for me, 110 is the crucial level. That is the key where the stock might head for next few trading sessions. Now coming to Bajajfinance, this is one of the more stable names. If you want to look at trading perspective, then yes, it has given a small range breakout on hourly charts as well, and it can go 3-4% higher. But if you want to look for a larger trend, then I think the stop losses might not be that lucrative. But yes, for next few trading session, this is one of the more stable names among the NBFC space. This has been the only stable name so far. So for me, this is a thumbs up as far as trading is concerned.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in on Bajajfinance. I'll let you catch your breath, Gaurav. It seems you must have come running here. But yeah, Kunal, you have a call on Siemens this time around. Let's pull up the chart on Siemens. You believe the trend could continue on the higher side? It's a complicated chart, but yeah, you need to explain it.
So what I've done is I tried making first trend line, which is right from the bottom of 1000 levels. This entire white line is creating a trend line, uptrend line.
Okay.
The stock is clearly under the consolidation phase as of now, but the trend seems to be in continuation. This yellow marks which you can see on the chart are parabolic SAR. Now this parabolic SAR is something which determines the trend going forward. So for time being, the trend is definitely negative, but under the pennant formation which is underway, the breakout seems to be at the same level, which is the resistance mark made in the red line. So and if I look at the RSI, so RSI is right now placed at 56, 57, which is a decent level to think of going long if the breakout turns out to be positive. After this consolidation, above on the higher side, we have 15 points to go on the RSI. Coming back on the chart, if the pennant breakout comes, which is placed at around 1285, beyond 1285, I expect the trend to continue on the higher side. The best part of this counter was that in the entire correction right now, the stock went under consolidation. So that shows the inherent strength of the counter. About 1285, keeping the stop loss of 40 points on the lower side, I expect the counter to reach 1450 and 1500.
What time frame are you looking at?
So post breakout, I expect the targets to achieve, say, in a month or 1.5 months.
Yeah, so since this is more like a positional trade,
Perfect.
which is the ideal time to start accumulating? It's at 1260 currently.
Correct.
What level should you buy now? Should you buy now? Should you wait for a dip to come into the counter?
So no, this consolidation may continue for a couple of weeks also. So I would wait for the breakout about 1285 where we can capture that.
Only
quick
about
move.
1285 will you buy?
The first advisable point is 1285 or say try accumulating near 1245, keeping the stop loss of 10 points then.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thanks for that. So Siemens, it's another buy call that's coming in. What's your sense, Amit, on Siemens?
Yeah, I mean, see, last week I think I covered L&T as a buy. The near-term chart setup is more or less similar. Of course, L&T has broken out into new fresh all-time highs. This one has not yet done it. But the near-term movement is, the chart structure is almost the same. It has risen quite sharply and now consolidating around its 20 EMA. I would actually look to buy this either on decline towards 122025, or I would look on a fresh breakout about 1290, and one can expect targets of 1330 on the upside.
So similar, 1285 is something that he said
Right.
buy on a break.
I would even utilize dips also to buy, because the trend continues to remain on the upside. As of now, it's on a kind of a no trade zone, but I would utilize even dips to go long on this one.
Gaurav, what's your sense? Would you agree to the theory that's been put out right now?
I partially agree. It had formed a bearish harmonic pattern higher levels. It got triggered at 1290 about zones. It has already touched the targets. There's a positive sign that the targets have been met. Now it can see a fresh up move. But as he mentioned, the pennant, I would wait for a breakout which comes around 1290 if I'm not wrong. So if it trades above those levels, keep a 20-25 point stop loss, and on the upside I agree with his targets. But the only point is that we are not in a very strong uptrend in the Nifty index as well. Let us talk about the Nifty Midcap Index also, which is just seeing a bounce back. We're not seeing a breakout. So it becomes of paramount importance that you play on a proper levels. The risk what has to be maintained.
Okay.
So only on that front, I would play for a breakout. Else, there's nothing wrong with the trend.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in. I think the consensus view is between 1285 to 1290. That's the consensus view that's coming in. Play for the breakout. So if that is broken out, the targets can pretty much be achieved. What was said. The next chart is pretty much the chart which has been forming over the past few days, and that's IndusInd Bank. Gaurav has a chart on it. On the fundamental side, July 4th is the date in which the merger will be effective with Bharat Financial. But of late, it's shown a good trend. It's been very weak of late. But over the last 2 days, it has actually managed to move up.
The reason that it saw a good amount of correction, we talk about this. This is the price rejection area, the entire this particular entry draw over here. This has been a price rejection, and from there on, it did not try to break those levels, and it saw some dip coming in. Now, this particular bracket becomes quite important. The white area that is marked over there. As far as price action theory, this is kind of a supply demand zone. We have seen that whenever it tries to touch those areas, we see a bounce back. Now this bounce back might be 15-20%, it might be bigger. But the point is that this is where we expect some amount of stability coming in. If you look at the RSI, that is also getting quite stable over here. We're not seeing dip forming over here. And if you look at the stochastic as well, if I'm not wrong, we have seen momentum crossover happening on that, stochastic reversal happening on that front as well. So overall,
But volumes aren't been seen on the...
yeah, but if the stock is falling on low volumes, that's a positive sign.
Okay.
It is yet to, we are playing for a reversal, we are not playing for a breakout. So
Okay.
if there's a breakout that is followed by good volumes, that has a good efficacy.
Okay.
But a reversal might not happen with the strong volumes. Generally, we see a reversal happening on smaller volumes, then participation has to come into the picture. Otherwise, it might be a false reversal as well. Now, this is a harmonic pattern we call as a bullish harmonic shark pattern that has again got triggered over here. So there are three positives over here we're talking about. One, where we have seen a small bounce back coming in, stability coming in from this level. This is also a positive reversal pattern over here. So if this plays out quite well, I generally don't talk about bottom, but yes, there can be some sort of reversal that can be seen in the name, and it can be for a slightly extended period of time. This is what I expect from this name going ahead. So one can buy at the current prices, one can play, and also on dips for the reason that it's already bounced back. If you look at the panic low it made yesterday, I think it was around 1350, 1360. So the 1360 would be the stop loss for only for that reason one can play for dip. It's positive today also, even when the bank nifty is not doing that well. So you play on dips as well. One can buy around 1420 as well. Keep a 1360 stop loss, and 15%, 10% target is what I would be expecting.
Okay, thanks so much for that, Gaurav. It's trading at the day's high currently. There seems to be a lot of traction coming into some of the private sector banks. Kunal, what's your sense on IndusInd Bank? Do you agree with the theory? Is it something that you would buy?
So I'm not really aware of the theory, but as far as the price goes, I can say that 1414 is placed near to 200 days exponential moving average on the weekly chart. Okay, so third time the stock managed to surpass that on the lower side, and within in a day it recovered sharply. So unless this 1400 is taken out on the lower side, the risk reward for the long remains positive. So I'll definitely think of going long at this point of time, keeping the stop loss of 1400 on the lower side. Expect the counter to reach around 1600 mark.
Amit, would you buy?
Yeah, actually, I would avoid this stock because it's been very, very volatile. Around 1340, yes, it's been finding some support repeatedly. It has tried to bounce back from that area. But I think there are much stable stocks available in the banking pack. I would prefer Axis Bank, ICICI Bank any day rather than this one. This is, I think, is still not settled down, the stock. So
I think we got in a little bit of contrarian views. Two bullish calls coming in, while one stay away call coming in on IndusInd Bank, but nevertheless IndusInd Bank is trading at the day's high. But remember, it's a high beta counter, and the banking name does manage to move very, very fast as the market does manage to move. Let's begin the second round of charts, and Amit has a chart on Hexaware this time around. Over the past few days, ever since the acquisition that happened with Hexaware, this counter has been seeing a lot of traction. You can clearly see the breakout that is there. Is that what you're playing out for?
Yes, exactly. So, you know, we have had a sharp decline from all-time highs. These were the all-time highs the stock had made. Since post that, it has corrected. Again, it tried to make a base, drawn this red line, which has been the resistance line. It broke out about that line, but kind of a fail to, you know, carry on the upward momentum and still started the consolidation phase again. What we are, and more or less around that previous resistance line, it has tried to find support on the downside. So again, a sideways movement post the first breakout, again a sideways movement, and now we have seen again a fresh breakout. So I think stock has spent enough time consolidating on the downside in a sideways fashion, and now it's showing the first initial signs of breaking out on the upside. And this probably yesterday happened probably on some of the bad news, you know, about the H1B visas, etc. But I think a stock actually breaking out when the sentiment itself is not that good shows the kind of strength it has, you know. So it's a more of a contra way of taking, in spite of bad news, the stock is moving up. So it's showing all the good signs, you know. Even the large caps like TCS are flirting near all-time highs. So while IT has not done you know, something really great in this phase of the market, but at the same time it's been consolidating nicely around its all-time highs. So I think one needs to watch out for this sector.
Okay, what's the target that you're looking at?
So the target for Hexaware is 418 is the first target. I'll keep a stop of 354. So 418 is the first near-term target, but overall I think it should even head towards 440 mark on the upside.
Okay, that's a positive view that's coming in. Yeah. Thanks so much for that, Amit. Gaurav, Hexaware, are you playing for this breakout? Do you see that sustaining?
We had already shared this particular chart to our clients, and we had recommended the breakout levels come around 374, 375 if I'm not wrong, and from there we already seen 14-15 rupee up already coming in. So if somebody talks about trading, we have seen a decent part of gains already been on the chart, but it's a good breakout. As he said that the consolidation phase has been quite interesting, so yes, it can go higher. For me, I would wait for a dip. There's nothing wrong in the chart, one can buy here, but the only thing is that to make it more lucrative, a good breakout should happen, that there's a breakout and retesting of breakout and then goes up. That's a very beautiful pattern. I am anticipating that, and I would play for a dip, any dip towards 378. Can we bought, have a 10-12 rupee stop loss on targets? I totally agree with him.
Okay, what's your sense?
So no, I agree with both of these guys' views. The breakout is very clear. But at the same time, if you have already missed the burst at 373, 374, wait for the stock to come down, make a higher bottom, and then make a fresh new uptrend. I expect the counter to reach 450 mark over the period of time.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in on Hexaware. The next chart is from Gaurav actually this time around, and it's on CSC. Gaurav, if you can come, let's pull up the chart. Yeah, it's a bullish chart if I can find it.
It is a bullish chart, and it's not been doing quite much. This is again, you can call it a double bottom. There's 1 and 2. We have seen a double bottom breakout. Here the volume participation, I don't know if it's visible here, but the volume part over here has been a little bit higher over here. So when we are talking about breakout, the volume becomes of paramount importance. So that is one part that we have seen. A good consolidation breakout has been seen. All this while it has been adding decent amount of OI addition happening. And if you go back to the chart, you will see that it has also given a breakout, a trend line, falling trend line breakout that was seen over here. So it is sustaining above both levels. It is sustaining above the breakout level mark. It's trying to retest those levels. As I discussed a couple of minutes back, that a breakout which sees a decent up move, good volumes, tries to retest the breakout and then goes up. That's a very beautiful pattern. This particular breakout, the trendline breakout level, that is again sustaining. So, and it has been quite relative. We have seen a lot of mid caps plunging to much lower levels, and this has been quite relatively stable. I mean, it's not doing too much, but it's quite relatively stable. So one can buy here. Stop loss for this would be 735 on the upside. 820, 830 is what I would be expecting in the name.
You said the breakout happened with volumes. Are the volumes sustaining over the next 2 days?
Volumes have not been sustaining. We have not seen incremental volumes happening, but yes, the fall has not been there. It's not been doing too much. The trend should have volumes. We have seen a trend happening, and then it has been consolidating. So in consolidation, you might see volumes, you might not see volumes. It might again go for 1 or 2 weeks more. There's a possibility that for next 3-4 days it might consolidate. But overall, I think the breakout, it has been sustaining with weak Nifty being weak, the mid cap index being weak. So I think that's a very positive sign.
Okay, thanks so much for that, Gaurav. Kunal, what's your sense on CSC? 6760?
So no, the way we discussed the previous chart, the breakout came on Hexaware, and probably we are waiting for the lower, the higher bottom to be formed. The same is the case here. The breakout was somewhere placed near to the 740 mark. It reached 760. So if at all it comes down to 740, would be the great level to accumulate. If someone wants to play on the breakout, then I will place the breakout at 780. But certainly it has come out of that consolidation phase, so one can keep a watch on it.
Okay, Amit, what's your
Yeah, I
sense?
completely agree. Even I like this stock a lot. So it has spent a nice 6 to 8 months in a sideways fashion and has recently broken out. So that 740 is the breakout zone, which is of course also on declines. It becomes a good support zone, and one can, if at all it comes, one can buy near that zone. I'll keep a stop at 718 and then play this one for 840 target on the upside.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in on CSA. I think consensus positive view that's coming in. And the last stock, at least from Analyst, before Yash comes back, and that's a chart on BEL. Pull up BEL. BML seems to be doing well today. Let's see what BEL is doing. BEL is pretty much consolidating at the 110 level. What's happening here?
Darshan, we had discussed about this chart when it was trading at around 90, and the positional target then was given at 135. And post that breakout, we saw a decent rally coming in. Now, the best part of this chart is that the trend which is continuing. It's entirely is a curve formation. Under that curve formation, again the prices have got into consolidation. Why I opted for this chart was because earlier we had a call with the target of 135, which is now getting again justified on the same. The first entry was at around 92, which was this particular breakout, and then stock went into under consolidation. Recent fall in the market, this stock is not really affected a lot. If I try to look at the RSI, again it's placed at 59.70 right now, 59.60. Well, it went above that overbought zone, it came down and again poised for a new rally. So once the breakout comes on the chart, which is placed at around 112, I expect the counter to make a high of 135 now.
Okay, 135. So you maintain the target of 100. Should they buy now? Should they wait for a decline?
So if someone wants to accumulate, then wait for the counter to reach near to 108. Keep the stop loss of 106. And if you are playing on the breakout, then wait for the breakout or say closing above 112. Keeping the stop loss of 106, expect the target of 135.
Okay, thanks so much for that, Kunal. Gaurav, what's your sense on BEL?
Well, if you look at BEL, it had given a range breakout like what we discussed about CESC or Hexaware for that matter. It has given a breakout. The breakout was about level of 101 kind of zone. The target for that also been met. 115 was the level that it touched upon, and then we saw some amount of consolidation happening. And if you look at the previous swing high, that is also near the resistance area. So 115 is going to be decent resistance. For me, dip towards 105, 106 is what I would be finding it lucrative. Keep a stop loss of 101. On the upside, 115, 120 is what I would be playing. So I would wait for a dip and then buy.
Amit, what's your sense?
Yeah, I mean, there's a positive momentum building up. Right now it's just sideways, but the way it is holding up, I would actually look to buy one either on a breakout above 113. For a target of 125 on the upside, or else I'll even look for dips towards 98, 99 kind of a zone to accumulate the stock. So either ways, whichever triggers first, I would look to buy the stock.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in on Bharat Electronics. And before we end the show, let's get in Yash Upadhyay, who has a chart on Ultratech Cement. Yash, what does the chart indicate?
So it's a conditional chart. There's a conditional buy on Ultratech Cement. It is within 1% of the trender, and as the condition stands, the stock is at 4,628. The trender is at 4651, which is the red mark over red line over here. Shouldn't manage to close above that, the trender would again flip its color from green to red. And historically, as we've seen on either side, the stock move has been over a series of time. Be it when the trender flipped from green to red or from red to green, the stock has moved in unison with what the theory stands. And what's important to note over here is that every time the stock has made a move on the higher side, post a certain move, it has given a small correction. It went up to the levels of 4,800. It again quickly corrected to 4,500, and then it has moved again on the upside. The move on the lower side, that triggered the trender to flip its color from green to red. But with the move that we've seen on the daily charts over the last 4 trading sessions, 3 of those 4 trading sessions, the stock has ended in the green, with strength there being in the form of volumes 2 being supportive. That means that the red trend line would be taken out, and that was a false move as far as the stock is concerned, and shouldn't manage to close above that, we could see higher levels as far as Ultratech is concerned.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in on Ultratech. Positional long call if that happens. Amit, what's your sense on Ultratech?
In fact, sometime back I had covered the same stock in your show, and I continue to remain very bullish. It's a very strong, solid trend, you know. I have a target of 5,000 on the upside. It nearly went there and had some correction. It's making a small, nice base around 44.20. So I would keep a stop below 44.20 and play it on the upside. It's again started trading above its 20 EMA. This correction and the near-term correction seems to be complete, and I think the uptrend should continue, and will hopefully it should touch the targets of 5,000 on the upside.
Kunal, what's your sense?
So now after crossing 4,500 mark, this stock entered into all-time high trajectory. It retested the same breakout, and now the trend is continuing. I feel that the stock is poised for a new uptrend. The target can be placed above, say, at least 700 to 800 points from the present level. It's a trend continuation story.
And Gaurav, your final view?
I also believe the stock can do a little bit higher levels, but the only point is that there's a trend line resistance at levels of 4,700 mark. So I would buy at higher levels, buy above 4,700, play for 200, 250 points, keep a stop loss of 100 points. That can be kind of strategy in the name.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in. So 8 stocks that we discussed today with all the strategies for you to have a profitable trading day. But with that, it's a wrap on today's edition of Hot Money. Let me thank all my guests who came in today and help you with all those strategies. Amit, Kunal, Gaurav, thank you so much for coming in today. Ask BQ comes up next. Stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint.